She was broken, until one decision changed her life forever. Maya Thompson had always believed she understood what falling apart meant, until the winter she turned 27. New York City was already harsh in January, but that year, the cold seemed to seep into her bones in a way she couldn't shake. Buildings felt taller, nights felt longer, and even the city's constant noise felt strangely distant. She had come to New York with bright dreams: graphic design, a creative career, her own small apartment, a life she could someday be proud of. But life, in its ruthless unpredictability, had slowly pulled each of those dreams out of her hands. By January, all she had left was a cheap room in a rundown building in Queens, a bank account with $43, and a heart so tired it barely felt like it belonged to her anymore. She hadn't always been this lost. Back in Ohio, she'd been the girl everyone believed would make it big. She won a statewide art competition at 16, earned a partial scholarship, and moved to Brooklyn determined to turn her creativity into a career. Her parents had stood in their driveway waving proudly as she drove off. But nobody prepared her for how hard the city would hit her. Clients ghosted, rent climbed, roommates moved, opportunities shrank, and loneliness became a quiet roommate she never invited. The day she lost her full-time design job, cutting staff to stay competitive, was the day she began sliding downhill fast. She tried to freelance, but she didn't have connections. She tried to stay hopeful, but hope didn't pay bills. She tried to pretend she was fine, but her eyes told a different story. By December, she was months behind on rent. Her landlord's voice echoed in her head every day. "I'm sorry, Maya, I can't give you more time." She had sold her favorite camera, half her clothes, even her childhood sketchbooks to keep herself afloat. But drowning people can only tread water for so long. And on a Thursday evening, sitting on a cold subway bench after another interview rejection, something inside her snapped. She pressed her face into her hands, the train rumbling past her feet, and whispered to herself, "I don't know what else to do." No one looked at her. No one asked if she was okay. People just kept walking, too busy, too numb, too wrapped in their own exhaustion. The turning point didn't arrive like a miracle, or a flash of light, or a sudden moment of inspiration. It came quietly, almost invisible. The next morning, while scrolling through her cracked phone screen, she saw a message from her mom. It wasn't long, not poetic, not dramatic. Just 6 simple words. Asterisk, call me when you have time. Asterisk, she hadn't told her parents how bad things were. She didn't want to disappoint them, but something about that message, simple, loving, familiar, made her stop. She stared at the words for a long time. Then she breathed out shakily and whispered, "I can't keep lying," she called. Her mom picked up on the first ring, her voice warm, gentle, steady. "Hey, sweet girl," she said, and that was it. Maya broke down, completely. Through tears, she told her everything. The job loss, the rent notices, the sleepless nights, the fear she'd failed at life. Her mom didn't judge. She didn't panic. She just listened. When Maya was finally quiet, her mom said softly, "Honey, you don't have to do this alone. Come home, just for a while, just to breathe." But Maya shook her head even though her mom couldn't see it. "I can't give up," she whispered. "I can't go home as a failure." Her mom's answer was calm and unwavering. "Coming home isn't failing. Staying stuck is." Something in that sentence hit her like a slow, heavy wave. It wasn't permission to quit. It was permission to reset. That night, Maya sat on the edge of her small bed, looking around her dim, cracked paint room. She listened to the usual creaks in the hallway, the distant arguments from neighbors, the heater rattling like it was begging to retire. And then she made a decision, one decision that would change everything. She decided she wasn't going home, but she was going to rebuild her life from the ground up. She grabbed a notebook, flipped to a blank page, and wrote 3 words at the top: start from zero. Under it, she wrote a list: learn new design skills, rebuild portfolio, apply to 10 jobs a day, say yes to opportunities, stop hiding. She didn't know if it would work. She didn't know if she had the strength. But she was done breaking. She was done surviving. She was ready, finally, to fight back. The next morning, she walked to a local cafe that offered free Wi-Fi. She ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a small black coffee, and found a seat by the window. She opened her beaten-up laptop. It took almost 4 minutes to turn on, and began working on her list. She searched YouTube tutorials, downloaded design practice sheets, studied branding strategies, and redesigned old projects. Hours passed, then days, then weeks. She became a regular at the cafe. People started to notice her quiet determination. One of the baristas, a woman named Hannah, often slid an extra pastry onto her plate with a wink. "You look like you need it," she'd say. And Maya did. But more than food, she needed something she hadn't felt in a long time: support from strangers. In her small room late at night, she kept practicing. She redid logos, built imaginary brand campaigns, sketched until her fingers ached. Slowly, her confidence began returning. Not as a sudden burst, but like a small flame that refused to die. One cold evening, she submitted her new portfolio to a mid-sized marketing agency in Manhattan. She didn't expect anything. She'd been rejected so many times she barely reacted anymore. But 3 days later, she received an email. Asterisk, "We'd like to invite you for an interview." Asterisk, she stared at the screen, not breathing, then whispered, "Please, please let this be real." The interview was scheduled for 9:30 a.m. on a Wednesday. She arrived early, wearing her best outfit, ironically bought back when she actually had money. Her hands shook as she sat in the gleaming lobby, surrounded by people who seemed confident, polished, untouchable. When her name was called, she followed the hiring manager into a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows. The woman smiled kindly. "So, Maya, tell me your story." Something inside her loosened. She didn't fake confidence. She didn't pretend she'd had it easy. She told the truth about losing her job, about climbing out of a dark place, about rebuilding her skills one video tutorial at a time. The hiring manager listened closely, then asked, "Why didn't you quit?" Maya swallowed hard. "Because if I quit," she said softly, "then everything I sacrificed to get here means nothing." A week later, the agency offered her a junior designer position. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't high-paying, but it was hers. Her first real opportunity in months. She accepted immediately. That night, she cried. Not from fear, but from the overwhelming relief of knowing her life wasn't over. It was just beginning. On her first day at work, she felt terrified. But she also felt something she hadn't felt in years: possibility. Her team welcomed her. Her manager believed in her. And slowly, her creativity blossomed again. She stayed late, learned fast, helped others, and poured her heart into each assignment. Within 9 months, she earned her first promotion. Within a year, she became the lead designer for a major campaign. And within 2 years, she did something she once thought she'd never be strong enough to do. She signed the lease on her own apartment, a bright, cozy studio on the Upper West Side. Standing in that empty space, sunlight pouring across the hardwood floors, she whispered, "I made it." But deep down, she knew something even more important. She had rebuilt not just her life, but herself. People often think success is about talent, luck, or timing. But Maya knew the truth. Success is about one moment, one decision, when you're at your lowest and you choose to believe you're not done yet. She learned that broken doesn't mean finished. Lost doesn't mean hopeless. And falling doesn't mean failing. Not if you stand back up. And if you asked her today what changed her life, she wouldn't say it was the job, the portfolio, or the apartment. She'd say it was the moment she finally whispered to herself in that dim queen's room. Start from zero. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever do is simply begin again. And so, to anyone listening, anyone hurting, anyone standing in the dark wondering if they still matter, remember this: your story isn't over. Your strength is still there. And your comeback can start with one small, brave choice. You are not broken forever. You are just one decision away from the life you were meant to build.